Good morning, friends. Welcome to goonlinetrainings.com. From today, we're going to learn SSAS concepts along with the data warehousing concepts also. Okay, so we're going to understand how we have to implement the SSAS. But if you wanted to implement SSAS, what all you have to know as a developer, and let us understand. So we're going to discuss what is the BI application architecture and what is the data warehousing and why we have to use the data warehouse and what is a data mart. Already we discussed what is OLTP versus OLAP and top down and bottom up approaches. Okay, so let us understand one by one. So when you take any BI application, already we discussed, BI applications will have the data coming from the different data sources. The data may be from SAP or from Excel sheets or from .NET or from Oracle. So ETL has to take the data and it has to do the data cleansing or data scrubbing in the staging areas. And from that, you have to load the data into the data warehouse. Okay. Now, when you take the data from the data sources and for example, when you think about, a banking domain here, the bank will have different data. Bank will have, insurance data. Bank will have savings banks data. Bank will have fixed deposit data. Bank will have a mutual funds data. So a bank can have different kind of a data. That data, you have to get it and you have to cleanse. It is known as data cleansing. And some people will say data scrubbing. Data scrubbing means when you have some kind of a duplicate data, misspelled data, or invalid data that we have to remove, and again you have to load the data into the data warehouse. Now, when you load the data, what we are doing is that similar kind of a data you have to group and store in one small folder called loans. And another kind of a data you have to, for example, insurance data we have that I wanted to group and store. Credit card data, for example, bank issues the credit card. You take the credit card and you make the payments of the credit card. So, but all the data is completely different than the insurance data, right? So this data is grouped together. So like that, you will have different, data is grouped together. So this is known as a subject oriented data. Okay, now let us understand what is a data warehouse. Now, so we have to understand a data warehouse concepts because if you wanted to work with a cube, so this is my SSAS. So SSAS always work with the data warehouse. If you don't know what is a data warehouse, then probably with the SSAS you will not be able to work. Okay, so from today, let us understand how to create a data warehouse and how to get the data from the OLTP applications and how to clean the data and how to export the data, this clean the data to the data warehousing. Then the later sessions, we have to understand how we're going to work with SSAS because if you don't have a data warehouse created in your company, definitely you will not be able to work with SSAS because SSAS input data is the data warehouse. Now, we'll be getting different kind of a data. The different kind of a data we have to group together. So just now I told you we have a loans data. In previous diagram, we have a loans data, we have insurance data, we have a credit card data. So from today, let us understand what is a data warehouse all about. So, and how to design the data warehouse and how to load the data from the OLTP applications to the OLAP applications with the help of ETL. And how do I create my data warehouse? What are the designing concepts of the data warehouse? We have to understand all these things so that you can load because end of the day, you will be asked a question in the interview. So one question they'll ask you, what is a data warehouse and what is the kind of a design you had there? Please justify with your answer. Or, whenever you put the project, they'll ask you, tell me the project and tell me your data warehousing design and with your ETL packages design and justify your answer. Only one question they'll ask you if you're a senior. And when you say, I have taken the data and loaded the data into the destination table with the timestamp and for each loop, and they don't, give you much importance because they need, a complete scenario and tell me the what kind of data you have and how you have designed the data warehouse and what are the fact tables and what are the dimension tables, what kind of a tables OLTP is going to have, what is a master table and what is a transactional table, how do you design the data warehouse, all these things. And people would ask, and what is a star schema, what is a snowflake schema, and why ETL packages you have designed like that, and what is the incremental loading you have performed, why you did not use the incremental loading for this table, and lots of questions people are going to ask. That means what? End of the day, data warehouse may be there in the company when you join, but that is perfectly fine. But if you wanted to create a data warehouse freshly from the OLTP system, then definitely you have to know what is a data warehouse all about. Already you know that data warehouse means a large database. That is a layman understanding. But you have to understand clearly what is a data warehouse and all about it. Okay? So first thing we have to understand, so what is a data warehouse and what is this loans and insurance and credit card data? That's we have to understand. So the data warehouse concept, let us understand, couple of days, 1 or 2 days we're going to understand. I'm going to give you a small case study to load the OLTP data to the OLAP. OLAP means I'm talking about here data warehousing applications. So we have to build a data warehouse freshly. That is my concept here. Now, the father of data warehouse is Dr. William H. Inman, or William Bill Inman, people will say, or H. Inman, and Ralph Kimball. So introduced dimension modeling to design the data warehouse in 1999. See? So actually William Inman is the guru or the founder of the data warehouse. He is the guy, but later the Ralph Kimball has modified lots of, the concepts of the data warehouse. But so today people are using at least 20-30% of the people are following Inman model of data warehouse. 70 to 80% of the people in the IT industry are following Kimball sir model only. Okay, so Kimball data warehouse concepts are more popular than the Inman concepts, but both of them, the Inman is actually a founder of data warehouse. Let us understand what are this concept as per Inman. Okay. So what is a data warehouse? Data warehouse means, as per Dr. William Bill Inman or H. Inman, so data warehouse is a subject oriented. Subject oriented means what? Just now I told you. Whenever you take the data from the different data source applications, so each subject area should be grouped. Okay. And loans is one subject area. Insurance is one more subject area. Credit card is one more subject area. Fixed deposits are one more subject area. Recurring deposit is one more subject area. Mutual funds is another subject area that you have to group them. So data warehouse means, you have to have loans, mutual funds, you have to put them together. Okay. And that is what is called a data mart. Now, the next point, according to William Inman, integrated, get the data from the various sources. For example, you may have the loans data coming from. So you may get some loans data from different sources and put the data. And from this location also getting the loan data and keep it here. Or from this location also you're getting the loan data and keep it here. So at the same time, from this location you're getting insurance data and keeping it here. So loans data, insurance data, credit card data is integrated from the different heterogeneous. Heterogeneous means different data sources. That is what the second point talking about. Get the data from various data sources, and the data you have to group together as a subject and you have to keep in the data warehouse. Okay. And non-volatile data, that means what? Once you load the data into data warehouse, probably that is data completely read-only data, and you have to have time variant data. So what is the meaning? Different time period data you have to load. You have to load 2005 data, 2006 data, 2007 data, 2008 data. So last 10-20 years of the data will be stored in the data warehouse. So this is the abbreviation given by the Dr. Inman sir. Okay. So subject oriented means we're talking about this kind of a things. For example, you assume data warehouse is a folder. You think like this. So loans and insurance credit cards are the subfolders. Okay. So you have a folder. Inside a folder, you have a subfolder. The folder is known as a data warehouse. These subfolders are known as a data marts. Okay. So if somebody asks you what is a data mart is a subject oriented. And the data warehouse is collection of data marts, and data warehouse is a superset of data marts because data warehouse means a folder and a data mart is a subfolder. You think like that. For example, I have a songs folder, and inside the songs folder I have English songs, and I have Arabian songs, and I have some Urdu songs, and I have some Hindi songs like that. So songs is the data warehouse. Inside that I have a Telugu songs, I have, English songs, I have some say other songs. So that means what, why we are, grouping the songs as different English songs and Hindi songs and Arabian songs and Urdu songs, because I wanted to work with only Arabian songs. So why should I go for the entire songs folder? So if there is a classification, then you can only analyze that data. So if you don't have a classification there, for example, tomorrow somebody comes and asks, I need only this data. If there is no classification, so I have to go to the songs folder and I have to look for the English songs. So, but if I store all the English songs in a single folder, I can only give that folder. I can only do some action on that folder. So, data marts are very good. When you create a data mart, for example, I wanted to analyze only on the loans, so not entire things. So definitely the loan department wanted to analyze more data onto this. They can take only this data mart and they can work on it. So, okay, what is a data warehouse? That is also a database. What is a data mart? Data mart is also one more database only. Clear. Okay. But if somebody is saying, yeah, we don't have much data warehouse here, we are working on a data mart and creating the reports and all, then you have to understand data mart is a small database. That's what you have to understand. It is storing historical data, probably one vertical data they're analyzing it, but comparatively very, low data. For example, when you take the data warehouse size is 10 terabytes or 20 terabytes, probably you have half terabyte or 1 terabyte of data belong to loan. So another, 1.5 terabyte of data belong to insurance. You may take another, 0.5 terabyte data belong to credit card. So data mart is a subfolder. Okay. Sometimes the loans itself, only one loans itself is a 20 terabyte data. That time you will take a loan as a separate data warehouse. So whether it is a folder or subfolder, it depends upon the data it has. That's it, nothing but. So you have to understand a data warehouse means a collection of data marts. Data mart means a subject oriented data. So one, data. So the subject could be sometimes based on the loans insurance, sometimes based on the your time. For example, I have 1980 songs, 1990 songs, 2000 songs. So the classification is given not on the language. First I had created a, English data, English songs, then I have Hindi songs like that. That is, language oriented classification. But I wanted to play the songs, time wise, 1980 songs, 1990 songs. Or you may have melody songs or some kind of a romantic songs or, some kind of some other songs. So the classification can be anything here. It could be a time frame, or it could be US songs, UK songs, could be a location, geographical, you know, you can geographical, classification may be the grouping may be there. So that is what you have to understand. It is not, need not be a loan or insurance credit card here. You may have 1980s data, 90s data, 2000 data. You may have, Asia data and Europe data and America data. Like that you can have classifications. But whatever be the classification is known as a data, subject oriented data. Clear? So data warehouse means we know. So data warehouse is a larger portion of a folder and data mart is a subfolders. That's what you have to understand. Now, data warehouse is also a database, large database, and data mart is also under database only. So be clear on this. Now, In simple words, let us understand. Data warehouse means it is a centralized large database. It stores integrated, summarized, and historical data for analysis and decision-making purpose. So if somebody is maintaining a data warehouse means they wanted to analyze the data and take the decision making. You cannot take. Some people may ask you this kind of a question in the interview. I buy one hard disk and I take all the data backup, and I'm going to keep all the data backup in the my secondary hard disk, the external hard disk. Now can I call the secondary hard disk as a my data warehouse? No, completely wrong, because the secondary hard disk which they're talking about, they have all the 20 years data. For example, I have some data in my hard disk. I bought some external hard disk, 2 terabytes or 20 terabytes of hard disk. I'm taking all this backup and putting it there. And tomorrow again from the same hard disk, I'm taking the new files and putting it there. Again next year, I'm doing copy and backing up all the data and putting into second a large hard disk. And that cannot be a data warehouse for you, because data warehouse means the data is neatly organized. Now in the hard disk, you're simply taking a backup of the file, and it could be a text file, XML file, JPEG file, and different formats, and you're simply taking a backup and putting in the external hard disk. And definitely the external hard disk cannot give you a questions for your analysis, because data is not designed properly. Data is not stored properly in the external hard disk. Just like a backup, simply if you need tomorrow, take the backup of the file. You have to open the file and clean the file and do lots of things there. So otherwise, you cannot have anything there. But data warehouse is not like that. Data warehouse is completely cleaned, and it is completely designed properly, so that when you write a query, you can take the decisions then and there by executing the query. So external hard disk is not the data warehouse. If somebody says that is completely taking a backup, storing some kind of a data, so however you want it to store, you can store. You may have 3 columns, 10 columns, and you may have JPEG file or any other file. So there you cannot do any analysis by opening the external hard disk. So external hard disk is not a data warehouse. Data warehouse means a large database where you have to use lots of designing considerations and clean the data, then subject-oriented data, then different time frame data. So whenever you query the data, and the data warehouse is going to respond, because it is an online analytical system. OLAP means. Okay. It is not offline. So data, when you take a data in the hard disk, and when you keep the hard disk is not a online. So, the external hard disk is not online. It is offline storage device. If something goes wrong in the primary hard disk, then you go to the secondary hard disk and get the data probably. So that is offline mode, and you cannot compare the external hard disk with the data warehouse. If somebody asks you this kind of a questions, be clear in this. Okay, so it is a centralized large database. It stores integrated, summarized, and historical data for analysis and decision-making purpose. So it is a OLAP system we were talking about, right? So when you take OLAP system, OLAP means online analytical. So the data is here, and with the help of a SSAS, you're going to analyze. OLAP means storing. Storing means data warehouse. Plus you have to understand this diagram. So you have to understand this SSAS we're going to use, and here we are going to analyze. So put together we say OLAP system. Okay, so storing and processing will be done. Okay, so it is online. Online means anytime you can just go there and ask the run the query, and you should be able to get the data. That is the meaning of online. Okay. So time variant and subject oriented integrated non-volatile. That is what is the INMON abbreviation to this data warehousing models. Okay. Now data mart also we discussed, and data warehouse means in simple terms, it is a centralized large database stores summarized and historical data for the decision making purpose. Now we are also very clear what is a OLTP data and what is a OLAP data. So OLTP data means, as I discussed already, OLTP data means data, daily operational data. So whenever you buy any mobile phone and anything, so you are connected using your laptop to one of the servers. Okay, so either you may be connected to, if you're in some location, you're connected to one server. If you're in another location, you're connected to one more server. Like that, using your laptop when you buy. or when you do any transaction to the Citibank in your, using internet banking. So using your laptop and you're connected to one of the servers and you do some kind of a transaction there, so the data would reach you. So this data is completely OLTP data, online transaction processing data. This data is known as a operational data or day-to-day data. And this data is reached here. So as I told you, what is the problem with this? So one day these servers will get full because you will be connected to your laptop and your laptop is a client and this is a server, and I'll be connected to my laptop and my laptop is a client, then this is a server. So OLTP will be having, so here think about Citibank or Amazon.com, they have a couple of servers. And below, if you are in California, you will be connected to one server. If I am in India, I'll be connected to one server. If you're in Sri Lanka, you will be connected to one server. If you're in Kenya, you will be connected to another server because one server cannot take the data because too much of transactions for the Amazon.com or to the Citibank.com, because it depends upon the location. They will have different servers all over the world. Okay. So how you're, when you go to Amazon.com, you may be going to the, UK's US server. But India, it is www.amazon.in. So when you say .com also, it will be redirecting to the Amazon.in. So when I say in, my data would reach to, so India server. So like that. So my laptop would be the laptop where I'm, giving the data, purchasing the products in the Amazon.com or Citibank.com. So all these servers is going to store the day-to-day data. So this is called online transactions data. Transactional means the operational data, daily data, or, you have to run the business, that data. So the data will be here, and this data you have to store and here. But one day these servers are full. You may have 6 months, or you may have 1 year, or you may have 2 years, but one day these servers are full. And the next day morning you say, error saying that the data is full here. So what should I do? The Amazon CEO will say, I have the older data. You want me to delete this data from here? No, you should not delete the data, and take all this data into clean the data and dump into a data warehousing. So OLTP means always, I told you, a fresh data. OLAP means, as I told you, historical data. So that means what? Last 1 year data or last 10 years data, you will be taking and putting it here. And the question is, when should I take the data from here and I have to load into the data warehouse? So some people will, probably you have 30 to 90 days period you may have. So some people will take 30, once in a 30 days, they have to, they have to run SSAS packages, so that you take all the data from here, you put it into staging, and from here, you're going to load the data. And some people may use, this is more clear picture, some people may use 45 days. So some people may use, once in a week. Some people may use, 2 months or 3 months. Some people once in a 6 months. So when is that I have to run this motor depends upon the how soon or how fast these servers are getting populated with the data. That is what is much more important. Okay. So whenever you bet the data, whenever you buy any products in the, any.com, you are directly connected to the OLTP servers. OLTP servers means online transaction processing servers. So daily data, daily operational data, daily purchase data, daily data will get stored here. I have given you one simple example to understand. So for example, you think about collecting a water in the buckets, and the buckets are full here. So when the bucket is full, what we do? We take the bucket of water, and the water we are going to load it to a drum or the tank. That's what I told you. So data warehouse means a tank. Again, you take the bucket and you fill the water in the buckets. And when the buckets are full, then you have to dump the data into the data warehouse. So the data warehouse is nothing but a drum or the tank where large amount of data is stored. So the fresh data will be stored in the OLTP buckets, and the old data, yesterday's water and day before yesterday's water, is stored in a drum or known as a data warehousing. So instead of manually taking the water and putting into this drum, I buy one motor. So SSIS or ETL is a motor. So when you switch on the motor and by giving the connection, so it's going to take all the water from here. It is going to load the data to the destination. But why staging in between? If you have the water is not cleaned water, and if you wanted to apply some kind of a reverse osmosis, or if you wanted to perform a chlorination to clean the water, so initially you were using a motor, you're going to store all the data in another tank or a bucket or some kind of a drum. Okay, and here you're going to clean the data with the help of reverse osmosis, or you may have some kind of a chlorination. So all the water is cleaned here, and with the help of one more motor, you're going to take the cleaned water and you're going to dump into a final, a reservoir or a tank or a drum. So this is what you have to understand. But initially, the how the data is being collected with the buckets. And why we are not storing permanently in the buckets? Because buckets have limitations of the in the size. So you have 30, 40 liters or maximum 40, 50 liter size. So one day the buckets are full. One day or 1 hour or 5 minutes later the buckets are full, and you have to switch on the motor and it is going to take all the data from here. And for the cleaning purpose, we may use another drum or another tank or another reservoir, another storing server. So this is also one more Oracle server, or this is also one more, a SQL server, staging means. So here we have create one more database called staging database. So all the data from here you have to dump it and clean it here, and you may remove duplicate, split, merge, convert, lot of things you're going to do. Staging means temporary. Staging means another database. Staging means not permanent. Staging area is used for the scrubbing or the data cleansing purpose. And using again motor, so you're going to dump the data. So ETL here purely a data import export tool. If somebody is saying ETL means you have to understand I have large amount of data. I wanted to export the data to the destination. So it is simply copying the data and moving the data or pasting the data. That's it. Control C and Control V in simple layman's understanding. Okay. So that is how we have to understand. So daily activities. So daily data will be coming to the OLTP. OLTP will have daily operational data. So whenever you buy a product, you are giving the data to the OLTP server, not to the OLAP server. But OLAP servers and the data warehouse, these are always used by business management people. So I am an end user to the Amazon.com. Whenever I buy a product, so I am giving data to these servers. Now that means what? All the crores of people, all millions of users are connected to OLTP servers only. And the data will reach initially here. So when these servers are full, then switch on these motors and the data would reach to the destination. So 2005 data, 2006 data, 2007 data, 2008 data, all last 10-15 years of data will be stored in the data warehouse. And the current year data, 2016 data probably, or last quarter data probably they're going to have. So they may have to store the data for only 1 year or maximum 6 months data. So if they're expecting, say in 1 year, if they're expecting 5 terabyte of data or 1 terabyte of data or 600 GB of data, so the 500 GB of data, they have this kind of a sizes they have to understand. So what is the data we're going to store here? So for example, I wanted to store some 200 GB of data or 1 terabyte of data I wanted to store. So they'll have put together the capacity of that. And when the 1 terabyte is, full, and for probably they'll, start this ETL and they're going to run the data and they're going to put it here. Clear? And they will delete the data here, and so that the servers are free for loading the data. Are you clear? So this is what's going to happen. So OLTP means you have to be very clear, and what is OLAP, that is also very clear, because compulsory questions all these are. Designed for transactions purpose. This is the operational data. The end users are connected to OLTP. End user never connected to OLAP, because OLAP always connected to the less users, and these users are management users or business users. Okay. And designed for transactions purpose and designed for the analysis and reporting purpose. Modifications are frequent. You update the data, delete the data, very more frequent here. Data modifications are not frequent. You never do the changes because most of the time this data is treated as a read-only data. You cannot say 100% read-only because whenever you run the SSAS package, it has to write also. So, but 6 months it will purely read only. Then once in a while only you run the package and load the data. So that time only writing. The remaining time it will be purely read only. Think like that. So you have normalized tables. Normalized table means the data is split into many tables there. Okay. For example, I have an employee table and I have a department table. So which employee is working for which department? I have a department table, department ID, department name. So you will be storing the data into multiple stages, and you will have more tables and more primary keys and more foreign keys are stored. And here the data is less redundancy, less duplicate data. Remember this. Okay. Normalization concept will discuss later because very important. I'm going to tell you this concept in brief in the data warehousing only. Data warehouse normalization is going to give you more number of tables, and here when you create a more number of tables, the problem is that you have to join that data when you wanted to retrieve the data. For example, I have 10 tables, data is stored. I have employee table, I have department table, I have a sales table, I have an address table, like that lots of table. When you need the data from different tables, you have to say select star from table A, join table B, then table C, table D, table E. So OLTP will have much more joins and everything. Okay, remember, because it has a normalization. Normalization means you will have a less redundancy. Less redundancy means you have, speed writing. So this concept we have to discuss in detail. So probably tomorrow or day after tomorrow, I'm going to discuss about normalization. Normalization improves writing capability and denormalization increases, reading capability. How? We're going to discuss soon. And indexes are not recommended because when you have a more writing of data, indexes are bad because indexes are good when you wanted to read the data. So reading is more in the OLAP application. So indexes are bad for the OLTP applications. So you may have one or two indexes, or you may have some 10-20% of the indexes, but more indexes are good in the OLAP applications. And denormalization is also good. When you're writing, normalization is good. When you're reading, denormalization is good. Why? We'll discuss. And indexes are definitely bad when you're writing the data because OLTP means it is more writing. OLAP means more reading, right? So this is the read and write data, but here more writing, more read, and more users. And we're all the users of Amazon.com connected to OLTP of Amazon.com servers. And we never connected to the OLAP because OLAP is Amazon, management people or CEO is going to connect. And read and write data, purely read-only data, and fresh data, and you're going to have historical data. So this is what you have to understand. And compulsory questions when you talk about OLTP data. OLTP means fresh data. The buckets you think. So when you think about a bucket, the bucket is going to store always a fresh data, but the problem with the bucket is the storage capacity of the data. When the bucket is full, you have to transfer the water to the drums. The drums are nothing but your OLAP or your data warehouse. So old water is going to stored in the drums and fresh water is going to stored in the buckets. So when you understand, buckets and drum concept, the tank concept, you will be able to understand and OLTP and OLAP very nicely. Clear? And let us understand the top-down approach of data warehouse. So proposed by Dr. Bill Inman. So according to Bill Inman approach, what he says, you create a data warehouse first. Data warehouse is created first, and then the data marts are derived from it. So data marts have consistent data and subject-oriented data. It is robust against business changes. The cost of the project is very high. So according to top-down approach, or Bill Inman says, what he says, you get the data from the source system, from the OLTP system. You get the data and you perform ETL operations and you load the data into data warehouse. You create a large data warehouse. Then from this data warehouse, you create a loan data separately, and afterward using this data warehouses, you create a credit card data separately. That means using you create a data warehouse and dump all the data into this. Then using this data, then you perform the classification. So you take this folder and you organize the data. So you create a data warehouse first, then you create a data mart. Data mart means subject oriented data grouping. So this is what is called a Kimball approach, or you can say top down model. Top down model given by Dr. Enman sir. Okay, sorry, Dr. Enman's approach is this. Clear? So according to him, he says you dump all the data first to the a folder called songs. Then the songs folder, when you have, then you sit and organize, English songs in one folder, and you take, Urdu songs in another folder. Like that, you organize. You create a folder, then go for this. And this is the model called top-down model. So but when you go by the Ralph Kimball model is known as a bottom-up approach. Data marts are created first and then integrated, and the comprehensive data warehouse is created. As the data marts are created first, business solutions can be answered quickly. For example, if I have to create a loan data first, now his model, so the Kimball model is, you can answer the questions very quickly. So let me take it as a Kimball-Sir model. So according to Kimball, it is a bottom-up approach. So that you have to understand. So according to his approach, what he says, you perform and never create this first. You create, different, you put, this is one data mart, and you perform and you create one more data mart called blah, blah, blah. And using this, you're going to create, so loan is one, small database known as a data mart. And this is also another small, and dump all the data into this, and this could be one more database called this. And using loans data, okay, using loans data and using credit card data put together, here you're going to create one data warehouse data. So both together will go to the data warehouse. Okay. So first what you do, you create a data marts first, and using this and this, you combine the data and you create a data warehouse. So here you have to build entire data warehouse, then only you can go in for this. But here you need not create entire data warehouse. Once the loans is ready, we can start analyzing the data here itself, even though the data warehouse is not there, because this data only part of the data warehouse. So once, see, data marts are created first, the business solutions, the business, can be easily and quickly they're answered. But here entire, because even though the loan data is ready in the data warehouse, and so you're going to create credit card data and all the data will be dumped, then the entire data warehouse is ready, then only this is ready for the, giving the analysis to the end users. But here you're creating a data mart first. Once it is ready, so people are going to analyze the, those particular loans data very quickly and very fastly. And this is first and this is later, then this is first and this is later. Definitely this kind of an approach, the people are not using, because more analysis done on the specific locations. For example, I wanted to analyze India data versus the US data, or I wanted to, analyze say electronics data versus furniture data, like that. So electronics data is one data mart, and the electronic device, and you have a furniture, could be another data mart, like that. So this is more people are using. These are the small changes given by the Dr. Kimball sir. Because of the small principles, Kimball's data warehousing concepts are more popular, and many people are using this approach only rather than this approach. These people are also using when you wanted to have enterprise analysis, but more people are not concentrating on the enterprise analysis first. They wanted to analyze furniture data, they wanted to analyze, say credit card data, they wanted to analyze electronics sales data, they wanted to analyze some kind of cloth, so beverages data, like that. So this data warehousing approach is more suitable and more used in worldwide. at least I can say 70 to 80% of the people are following Kimball's model, bottom-up approach, and some 20-30% of the people even today, they're following this model. So they're more concentrating on the, not a classification, not the grouping wise data, more enterprise data they wanted to analyze, things like that. Clear? So this is what you have to understand, the bottom-up approach proposed by Dr. Ralph Kimball. So data marts are created first and then integrated, and comprehensive data warehouse is created and things like that. As the data marts are created first, business solutions can be answered. Data mart is also database, remember, and a data warehouse is also another database. Okay, think like this. Clear? So these are the things we had understood today as part of data warehousing concepts. Okay, so what all we had understood today? What is a data warehouse and what is a data mart, and what is a subject oriented, non-volatile, integrated, and we discussed about time variant, and why in one approach is people are not using, and why many people are using in the bottom up approach and all. And we have also understood what is OLTP and what is OLAP and all. And tomorrow's session, we are going to discuss about how to design OLTP applications and how to design OLAP applications. And OLAP means data warehousing. How you have to design these applications, we have to learn, because that is what is called a data modeling. Okay, how do you design OLTP applications? How do you design OLAP applications, data warehousing applications? OLTP means small database where you can have small designing concepts. But when you have a data warehouse means a large database, and you have to implement definitely large designing principles you have to apply. Okay, and very important session we're going to have tomorrow on how to create a data warehouse from scratch. Okay, and then how to load the data into the data warehouse with the help of ETL. Again, we have to work with the ETL for some days, and then later when the data warehouse is ready, then we have to start working on the SSAS concepts. Okay, so 1 or 2 days we have to concentrate purely on the data warehouse concepts only. Okay, the top-down model, bottom-up model, so all these are data warehouse concepts. So be clear on this. Thank you. Any other questions you have, guys?
You stopped recording already?